Axiom versus Acer. The joined up teams duking it out. And Axiom has used as the revived player this guy as the red Protoss in the top right position of Neoplanet S. He is Crank. And spawning in the bottom left position as the blue Zerg player. Coming in for Acer. Man, she has been on a tear so far. Is she going to be able to take this game and finish this match off? It is Acer's Scarlett. And they are not going to be able to remake, unfortunately, for one of the casters. I think it's important that we always favor the player's comfort over literally everything else. So that no point in doing anything for. Don't want to harass the players really, but it's whatever. Crank, it looks like he wants to go for this gateway play again, which was fine. I really feel like the build that he did in game, though, I guess I feel like in game number 1, in the previous game, I really feel like it was, it could have, if he'd gone for 2-base pressure, like a really powerful, like a 4-gate, then without waiting for that Oracle, he could have done a lot more damage. But I guess we're going to have to see what he wants to do this game. Fast hatchery from Scarlett. Not scared of anything like a cannon rush. Realizing, you know what, Crank? Probably going to go for that gateway or Nexus first. So I don't have to worry about anything too crazy. And Crank's actually going to get a Forge in his main. So I feel like what Crank is anticipating right now is possible aggression from Scarlett. He's sitting back and saying, okay, well, I feel pretty good about this, but it's not a huge deal. So we're just Crank's just kind of chilling. He's just kind of getting his infrastructure set up. Neither of these players doing anything crazy. So we've had a pretty good series of matches so far. So this has been pretty good. I'm really excited to see who's going to be able to take this home. Of course, Crank wants to keep things alive for Axiom, as they are one win away actually from possibly getting 4th place. And I feel like since they've already dropped 3 maps though, they will actually not be in map score ahead of the team that is currently barely ahead of them, which on the current rankings is Millennium. Millennium has an 18-18 map score. Axiom, with the current tallying in today's games so far, will have a map score of 18-19. So they are barely behind. If they win this map, then if he manages to win the rest of these games, he's still gonna have one extra loss, but should have one more win. So this is definitely an important match. If Crank can complete and can kind of reverse all kill, I should say, basically taking things back to win the next 3 games, then the hopes are still very much alive for Axiom to get into the top 4 and make it to the playoffs of the Acer TeamStory Cup. But it's difficult. Crank's probe, though, is going to be able to scout out this 3rd hatchery, so he knows this is a very standard Protoss versus Zerg he's going to be playing. Zealot is out to wall off now. And one interesting thing to note is that this map is actually being changed. Neoplanet S, I believe the Casper version of this, they're actually increasing the size of this choke point at the natural. So, interesting things to note for the future. I wonder if they're going to update the ladder version of that. That'd be very interesting to see. Lings, the probe makes it home. Nice. And a Stargate coming up here for Crank. Very typical of our Korean Protoss players. This has pretty much been the favorite since Wings of Liberty it was coming towards its conclusion. It's just so good. And then you have a Stargate. You can almost never be caught off guard by Mutalisks when you have a Stargate. So it's just a damn good thing to have. Mama Core is out on the field as well. Can shove these Zerglings away, saying, hey, get off my lawn. Back off. And Scarlett's just droning up like a madman. Just droning. Droning. We should see a Roach Warren possibly and a Lair at the same time, but Scarlett's actually going to take another Gas Geyser. No Lair yet. This could be another Double Evolution Chamber play, which she does seem to favor in this matchup. But so far it's just drones. There's an extractor, but it's mostly drones coming out for our Acer Zerg. She wants to play this as comfortably as possible, realizing that if she wins this, she will also win the match for her team. So that's a pretty significant thing, in all honesty, to have for her. So we do now have the drones continue to produce. There's a double evolution chamber. This is exactly, that's what I was looking for. Scarlett really likes this play a lot. Lair is coming up as well, and I think Scarlett might just do another hive tech rush of sorts. Actually, I don't think so anymore. Scarlett got her evolution chambers a little bit earlier in the last game, and this was something that timed out well with her Lair to get a fast 2-2 and then a fast 3-3. And while this is still going to be a pretty solid 1-1 timing, she's not going to have this lineup with a hive if she does sprint towards that again this game. So the Phoenix count is starting to build up for Crank. He is going to try to bust out there and grab a lot of drones, or possibly even queens, but you actually see he's investing very early on into this air weapons, which is a very interesting touch. Most players do not do this. The robotics facility is complete. We should see Robo Bay to deal with possible 2-base Hydra, or 3-base Hydra, and that actually, the Hydra set is coming in, and yeah, exactly, that's that range attack. So this is more of a 1-1 type focus build. Phoenix are going to pick off one of these queens, so good catch here for Crank. Picking that queen off, more spores being started. Might lose his Overlord as well. Picking off drones, and Crank's trying to do as much damage as possible. Hydral's Den is done for Scarlett. I'd like to see her open up with range, just so a little bit more defensive side of things, and she does have the creep spread pretty reasonably well between her bases, so the speed is not as much of an issue. It's about actually hitting those units. There is that range upgrade on the way, and shields as well from Crank, so he is 100% looking to go into Sky Protoss this game. He has absolutely no reservations about that whatsoever. He's not upgrading any of his ground units attack or armor. He only got +1, which of course, I mean it's not like an indication he wants to stick with ground forces. The +1 attack is almost a necessity for Zealots to be able to deal with Zerglings early on. So it makes a lot of sense. A Colossus is coming out as well, will help deal with Zerglings. We could see some sort of timing here, but with the upgrade setup, this is more of a late game focused set of upgrades. Trying to get the air units out there that can really benefit from those extra shields. But the Zealots are trying to push out, and Crank wants to get a third base now. This is a very key moment in this game, because if Crank is able to get this third base up, he is going to be able to go straight to that air army, and he's playing this so greedily too. Not really warping in too many sentries. He's only got 2 of them. He's got the Mothership Core, of course. He's got the Colossi coming out, but ooh, Hydras, a lot of them are making their way across the field. That muscular augment upgrade is coming in. These Phoenix still perusing, looking for anything that they can grab with their little claws, and he is going to get that clean. But there's some Lings ready to the left of this base, and some Hydralisks. Oh, he's going to pull them back, try to get these Phoenix. So Scarlett is going to have to pull her Hydralisks back. Ooh, not able to get any kills off on these Phoenix just yet. There are a couple of Void Rays being produced by Crank. He does have one out on the field now with his main army. We have the Toot coming up now for Scarlett, as well as that Hive. And it's that fast Hive again that Scarlett loves so much. The infestation bit is done. No pathogen glands this game, though. So she may be thinking of doing something a little bit different. Maybe just more focused on upgrades, Roach Hydra Viper, or maybe just Hydralisk Viper, which is a slightly more ballsy version, of course, because you don't have those roaches that can tank. Hydralisks die so fast to Colossi, it's not even funny. But hitting a really fast time with a lot of Hydralisks could end up panning out well with Vipers, because she can, of course, abduct the very few Colossi that there are on the field, and just chew through the rest of the Zealots with the crazy DPS of the Hydralisks. But the Phoenix are running in, trying to find anything else that they can grab. Nothing so to speak of on the field. And well, observer for Crank, he sees all. He knows the creep is being spread, but about the tech, does he really know that much? Well, he knows there's Hydralisks on the field because of the Phoenix anyway, so there's nothing really crazy. But most importantly, does he know about this Hive? Yes. And that is another very significant part of this game, because to deal with that, the Void Rays are going to be very, very good, but Crank needs to be so careful about these Vipers. 5 of them on the way now for Scarlett. Scarlett has a lot of Hydralisks as well. You know, oftentimes people will say, well, okay, Zerg players close to maxing out, but they have a lot of roaches, so it doesn't really count, because roaches, you know, they're very cheap for their supply. But Hydralisks, this is a very, very real lean composition from Scarlett, and this is the kind of force that you really don't want to have to engage straight up. This is something you need force fields to deal with because of how much firepower there is. these might actually be able to out-DPS these Colossi, and you need the Colossi to get perfect hits. So once these Vipers are out and get that energy going from their consume ability, we could see Crank get into a little bit of trouble here if Scarlett is able to get some good abducts off. Crank doesn't actually have any Templar on the field. He's just not getting his Templar archive. So in terms of having feedbacks available to shut down the the Vipers, not really an option. Where are those Vipers? Where are they feeding? Oh, they fed off the natural hatchery. Okay. A lot of abducts available for Scarlett. Only 2 of these guys don't have enough energy for an abduct, and they will soon anyway. So bringing the spines forward is our Acer Zerg player. And Crank, he's throwing down some photon cannons, trying to get himself into a nice defensive posture here, but this is going to be... Ooh, this is going to be rough. First Templar aren't on the field. Gets 1 feedback off. Not bad at all. And here we go. Looks like Scarlett's going to try to get into a fight here. Some great feedbacks by Crank. Pulls the Colossi in, though. But the Hydras, they're not getting the target firing down that they need, and the Colossi will be able to retreat. And oh my goodness, Crank is doing so much damage to this army of Scarlett. Scarlett realizing she needs to retreat right now. The queens are off of the creep. They need to get out of here. Crank, that engagement could not have gone better for him. Scarlett really threw away a lot of her Hydralisks there. Very unnecessary. And these queens are going to get lifted up, taken out. No transfuses on their part. And really, really good play. Scarlett is in a very, very bad position right now. Crank, with this push, could do game-winning damage. There's still spines, there's still Hydralisks, and there's still some Vipers, but this is going to be such an important engagement. There's not enough of ducks to grab all of these Colossi. Pulling them forward into the spines, managed to take 1 out, but one of the other Colossi will still be able to get away. And Crank, he's going to trade away a lot of his supply, though. So Scarlett making the best of this situation. Picking off a Void Ray. Ooh, needs to be careful, though. Those Colossi can do so much damage. Trying to step forward. And, oh, Scarlett overextending a little bit here. She's going to lose a lot of these Hydralisks. Colossi are just so good versus them. And now Crank is on top once again with that supply. Scarlett realizing she's actually hurting her expansions with that consume. Trying to just spread out the buildings that she is leeching off of. And of course, with Vipers on the field, there's always a chance for Scarlett to come back if she can get a perfect miracle engagement. A lot of these guys actually now have enough energy for 2 abducts. So there's a good amount on the field here. I'd like to see some more High Templar from Crank to be able to deal with these. But, well, Scarlett has a lot of bases as well. And Crank's trying to go to the bottom right and harass. There are a couple of Spine Crawlers here, though. We do have the Viper. Not really too much you can do. Maybe abduct the Zealot away so it doesn't kill that Spine. But never seen anything like that before. She's just going to start feeding off this hatchery. And Crank is trying to move out and take a 4th base, but Scarlett's creep spread is disgusting, guys. This is absolutely nasty. And ooh, needs to be so careful. Scarlett cannot engage without the Vipers. There are so many Colossi. There's 6 Colossi on the field. These Hydralisks are going to get incinerated stupidly fast. Oh man, Changeling's being sent forward for Scarlett. Oh, engaging off creep here is going to be so... Oh, I just don't know how to feel about this. Pulls in a Phoenix with an abduct, but... Oh, the Templar here getting sick feedbacks. All of these Vipers going to be neutralized, and now there's no answer to the Colossi. Scarlett has to retreat. And once again, a good number of these queens going to get left behind, but Scarlett... God, she can actually try to take this fight. She cannot fight this right now. She does not have an army capable of dealing with this. No roaches to tank damage, and the Hydralisk count, as high as it is not enough to deal 6 Colossi. These will vaporize that army instantly with that +2 attack, that +3 attack that is coming in now. Oh my goodness. I just really wish... Oh man. This game is so intense, but I feel like Scarlett's composition, even though she's remained max for a while, she just doesn't have enough to actually deal with this. And she's going to try to transition into Locust, getting those Swarm Hosts out. But in all honesty, with this many Colossi on the field and Void Rays already, it's going to be very difficult to safely do that. Scarlett had to slowly trade her way into a mass Swarm Host split map scenario because she does have Crank's economy limited, but more great feedbacks. Really, really just keeping this this Acer Zerg on the back burner. And I mean, the only good thing that's really working out for her is that because of the creep spread she had from so long in this game, it's really, really making taking this 4th base a pain in the ass for Crank. He has such limited economy. The natural expansion's running dry. The main base is pretty much dead. Zealot's going to send towards the left side, and I think this could actually snipe this hatchery because, well, Scarlett consumed the crap out of it. So, Vipers, more of them being produced. There's going to be a lot of Vipers on the field for Scarlett, but as long as Crank continues to get somewhat reasonable feedbacks like he has been all game long, I don't see any way that these guys are going to be able to turn things around. And Crank is trying to push out a little bit. There is a Swarm Host on the field, but there's not that many of them. We do have those Zealots running in, picking off the Spine Crawlers with that +2 attack. And should be able to defend this for now, but a couple drones are going to fall. Scarlett doesn't have the saturation that she really wants there. This bottom right base, though, if Crank can force an engagement, that would be absolutely huge. Keeping the Templar out in front, abducting these Templar in pretty wisely. But it's just so risky. Ooh, those Templar. And then the Storms are also going to be really, really good versus these Hydralisks as well. The Zealots get into that bottom right side. There's no spine. Scarlett needs this economy. She's going to lose a lot of these drones here. North Swarm Hosts are being produced, but it's going to take quite a few before Scarlett can really put a good siege on this base, especially with this many +3 Colossi. It's not going to be easy to just go into Swarm Hosts and try to push in through that. Bottom right hatchery for Scarlett is going to fall. You have a big Zealot run by on the left side of the map. There's a couple Hydras here, a couple Spines. Oh, but Crank is just going to target down this weakened hatchery, and this is one of the negatives of the Viper Consume ability. This hatchery didn't have a chance from the beginning of this engagement just because Scarlett just chewed up so much of it. Some Zealots are going to get killed off, but now Scarlett is in a very awkward position. Crank seems to have reached his ideal perfect army composition. He's got a lot of Colossi, a couple Archons, and a lot of Templar, and using the feedback to take care of the Vipers is so big, as well as having Storm versus the Hydralisks. But I don't know. This is such a weird setup because Scarlett has a bit of a bank, but she doesn't have too much actual income left to take from these bases. Her natural is going to run dry very soon. The main base, of course, is pretty much mined out. She pulled drones away from it early, but there's that Spire, and this could be one of those weird situations where you see a big Mutalisk switch. I don't know for sure, though. I feel like this is just going to be for Corruptors, maybe. Need something else to deal with these Colossi because the Vipers have not been able to get in close enough. Using these abducts on, a lot of abducts just on Zealots, you can kind of see Scarlett really trying to get as much damage done as she can with her units, but this fourth base is now starting to mine for Crank, and the economy is going to blow up for our Protoss player. This Colossus gets grabbed, abducted to death, falling to pieces over that Hydralisk, and that's exactly what Scarlett needs, is to start chewing away at this high-cost army that's so powerful. The Swarm Hosts are going to burrow. The Swarm Host count's actually getting very nice for Scarlett, and this is where the Vipers can become really powerful, is that you pull them into the Locust, but there's not enough Swarm Hosts to shove this army back. And Scarlett's army just honestly isn't enough to deal with this. There's too much on the field for Crank. This army's too powerful. Trying to get some abducts in, but some great feedbacks going in. Pulls 2 Colossi in, 3 Colossi, but oh, only 2 of them will die. Some great storms. Crank basically forcing Scarlett to back off, and Scarlett's going to go into a lot more Swarm Hosts to follow this up. The bottom right base still not able to mine off of it. The top left base has completed. No drones yet, though. And Scarlett took a nice chunk out of Crank's army, but Crank, he's also got a bit of a bank. He can go straight into Sky Protoss if he wants. He has the +1 shields. He's getting the +2 shields right now. The Zealots are ready to run into that top left base, and Crank should be able to deny that. Scarlett, she's going to have to send something over there to save that. I don't know if he'll get there in time, though. Well, these Swarm Hosts actually will be able to distract the Zealots, but Crank realizing, oh, I don't want... Well, Scarlett should go over there to defend that. She really doesn't want to lose it. Crank's army is so scary. Now mixing in those Tempest again, which we saw in the last game worked really well versus Broodlords. Now, Scarlett's not doing that this game. She does have a Greater Spire on the way, or the Grand Spire, if you happen to be classy. But Hydra run by on this top base. I really like this, using that Hydralisk speed to try go in and deal some damage. Using the Locust as well to pick through and provide a little bit of a buffer. So Scarlett knocking down an expansion of Crank is so important. Denying this Protoss economy is huge. Both players have a huge bank. But Scarlett, of course, as a Zerg, does have the production advantage, and she does know that there's a base on the bottom right going up. So the Locusts are going to be sent over there. There's a Zealot run by towards the bottom, but Scarlett not going to get that. And she needs to be careful with this Consume. Using the Transfuse. Not a bad way to deal with that. But Scarlett, now she's starting to get herself into a position with this many Swarm Hosts. She can really start to edge her way back into this game. 16 of them on the field here. A lot of Tempest being produced, but now Viper Swarm Host is just one of those nightmare compositions. You know, even Freddy Krueger lays down in his sleep and he thinks about Viper Swarm Host and just cries to himself like a child. And, well, these Swarm Hosts, this one wave of Locusts actually should be able to just kill this. There's not, the army is not in position for Crank, but the Swarm Hosts are actually a little bit exposed, needs to pull them back. Ooh, Crank has Blink, he can try to jump on top of them, but no, he will not get there in time. The Locusts are going to pick off these cannons, but he would need at least another wave actually to kill the Nexus, or severely maim it. But, oh, the probes are going to now transfer, and Crank, well, Crank's back on 4 bases, and this one, despite losing the top base, this base is very, very fresh for Crank. So he has a long-term economy plan. A lot of Zealots going to the top left for Crank. These Hydralisks will get caught on the bad side of that. But Scarlett needs to get this base. She needs to keep this. She's going to move a lot of her units back up there to take care and protect this. But all the drones basically putting into spines. And that hatchery is already so weak. I don't know that Scarlett's going to be able to hold on to this base. Crank can just focus it down. He's going to kill the spine crawlers. The hiders are here. But is it going to be in time? There's no queens to actually regenerate this. And now the army for Crank is just slowly sieging forward with those Tempests. That hatchery's got 15 hit points. Oh, Crank just targeted down. Target it. No. Barely keeps that base alive, but Scarlett's in a tough spot. Trying to abduct back the Tempest. The problem is there's no anti-air, it's just queens. And these things just don't deal the damage quite fast enough. But Scarlett's saying, no, I'm going to keep you here long enough that my queens actually can kill you. And, well, some of the Tempests are actually going to die. But now the army for Crank is moving in. There's just so much here. The Hydras were not available. Scarlett may have lost too much to be able to win this game. Crank is punching through. Storms dropping on everything. The Swarm hosts are forced to retreat. Now, there wasn't too much money left to mine at this base, but the problem is Scarlett does not have a long-term economy plan. Her top left base has been taken out. The Hydras are here, but like I said, that hatchery only had about 10 hit points or so. And now the Tempest moving in. Colossi getting grabbed by the Spine Crawler. Scarlett managing to keep the supply very close. She has a large bank, but the big problem here is that there's just not much economy for her. She only has 8 drones mining minerals at her top base. There's nothing really at the natural. There's nothing in the main base. Not even that many drones really for Scarlett. She only has 36 to 54 probes. But with this many Colossi and Tempest on the field, I'm just not so sure that Scarlett's going to be able to break Crank's army. Although she can park on top of these spine crawlers, Crank can just go somewhere else. You can say, okay, well, I'm just going to move a little bit closer to somewhere else that I can attack. I love this, using the abduct on the mothership core, grabbing that. Of course, the time warp doesn't affect air units, so... Ooh, Locust getting in here. Oh, might be able to kill an Archon. Nope, barely not. So, solid defense there, but a Zealot already heading towards that left side base. And Crank, if he keeps throwing on this crazy amount of pressure, throwing up these units, he can do a lot of damage. He's retaking this original third base. And I feel like he could just run around to Scarlett's fourth to be able to just shut this down, because Scarlett will have to move everything there to save it. All the spine crawlers and the swarm hosts will have to move in tandem. And she's actually taking that bottom center base again. But I feel like Crank doesn't need to go to the top left, because all he has to do is protect this economy and he's going to win. Scarlett slowly being starved out. Her bank getting lower and lower and lower. More swarm hosts being built, and the swarm host Viper is really the only unit composition that's cost effective enough for Scarlett to still have a chance because of how little her income is. But when he needs to abduct these Templar, a couple feedbacks go down, but is able to pick off a lot of those Templar. Very, very nice feedbacks dropping left and right. All the Templar dead. Very, very nice here for Scarlett. Now, these Swarm hosts are going to suddenly become very, very useful again in terms of dealing with these Colossi. There's no feedbacks available. Of course, there's still a Tempest, but with these Corruptors, she can just pull them back into that. And, oh god, she just killed her own hatchery. Scarlett, you need that. Scarlett, that kills things. Goodness, the Swarm hosts are moving forward. Scarlett needs to do something now, though. There's too much economy on the field for Crank to allow him to just have all of this. And 3 observers as well is going to be able to clean up the creep tumors. No chance at hiding the Swarm host if Scarlett loses a fight. That's another very important thing to note. And with this many Tempests on the field, Crank's got some great long-range capabilities. And like I said, he's got that bottom right base mining. He's got that right side base mining. And he took them so late that he's had all the time in the world to get the economy that he wants. Zealots chewing through that bottom center hatchery. The Locusts are headed over there to deal with them. But Scarlett, she does not like her hatcheries. She has already killed off a few of her own. And Crank is looking very, very solid. He does not want to lose this game. He wants to take this map, continue to fight in this Acer TeamStory Cup and push forward. Scarlett, though, she wants to win this. She wants to be able to say, you know what, I secured the 3 kills in a row to win this match for my team, and a big wave of Locusts is headed over towards the right side. Crank is going to move his army to defend that. But I don't think these Locusts are going to be able to do much. Maybe kill off a photon cannon or so. They just don't have enough timer left on their life. Enough life left on their timer, really, to be able to deal with this composition effectively. So 2 cannons will fall. But the Swarm hosts are going to move back into position towards the bottom. And Scarlett's trying to get in position to deal with this army. She has such an expensive, interesting army. So many Vipers, so many Swarm hosts. And I like that she has the Swarm host Locust at 3-3. It's a very, very nice touch. Pulls in the Oracle. but not before that Revelation gets cast. Very, very nice play. Pulling in the Archons, but Scarlett needs to pull in those Tempests. If she can grab the Tempest, that would be huge. They are getting dangerously close. She's going to start to pull them in towards that army. The Corruptors need to get their hits off, though, and it looks like Crank is just going to commit here anyway, saying, screw it, I am just going to push in and try to kill you right now, but all of the Tempests have been grabbed. The Corruptors, though, picking them off, and Crank is losing supply very quickly. These Locusts are dealing lots of damage, pulling the Colossi in. Crank, he does not have terribly much left. This next wave of Locusts could spell doom and gloom. If Scarlett has a couple more Abducts, she can pull the rest of these Colossi back. The Corruptor's not going to be stopped in this push, and Scarlett looking like she is going to finally be able to put herself back on even footing here against Crank. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe this game that I'm watching right now. Double Void Ray production coming out for Crank, realizing the best way to deal with Corruptors is that prismatic alignment. And now with the Spinecrawlers here, the Stalkers are actually not going to be able to just punch that on their own. They do have the +3 attack, but with the Corruptors and all of this many Swarm Hosts, this is going to work out really, really well. I'd like to see Scarlett try to shut down Crank's economy, though, because he was able to build up a bit of a bank. He does have a lot of unit production going for him right now. He doesn't have a lot of gas, admittedly, but he has denied Scarlett's economy still, to the point where even though she has this many Swarm Hosts, eventually Crank could theoretically punch through that by binding out the rest of this map. Now, Swarm Hosts are going to try to catch these Stalkers at the top center with those Locusts, but not going to happen. I'd really like to see Scarlett try to just siege up one of these forward positions and use Spinecrawlers a bit more. Crank does have enough resources to just throw tons of charge lots at Scarlett's base, and that's actually what he's going to do in the bottom area here. We have a lot of Zealots moving in. This hatchery is going to get picked off. The army is way too far away to deal with this. Maybe Scarlett, as far as going for a centralized position to defend, Gold Hatchery, not the worst idea, but she has such little money to toy with right now as this top left base slowly starts to mine out, that she's going to have a really rough spot and just really hanging on to anything. And now the Zealots are just going to run into the main base, reckless abandon, saying, you know what, forget your economy. I'm just going to pull your whole army into your main to defend. At the same time, these Stalkers are going to be able to pick off Creep Tumors, and Crank is going to go for that gold base in the center. If he secures this, I fear for the worst for Scarlett. Her army composition is very powerful, but this Hive is going to get sniped. That means no more Vipers. If the Infestation pit goes down, that means no more Swarm Hosts. Scarlett's tech, all of it is now gone. She would need to build another lair, and neither of these hatcheries are in particularly safe locations. So I feel like Crank is doing everything that he needs to do, and he's building up his Void Ray count all at the same time. He's got a lot of Void Rays. These Corruptors are going to have a bad hair day versus these. Now, I like that Scarlett is going to make a couple more Hydralisks. I feel like this is a pretty good decision, especially since these Void Rays are going to be a very real threat. 4 Void Rays at a time being produced. This is absolutely ridiculous. With the Abducts, though, Scarlett should be able to deal with those with Hydralisks. The Corruptors will pretty much get completely melted, but Scarlett is playing this so passively. This gold base is going to complete soon, and Crank, he's got so many Void Rays. Crank is trying to find a hole here to try to get some damage in here versus Scarlett, but with this gold base complete now, this is about it in terms of bases left for Crank to take. Scarlett's traded cost effectively enough that if she can secure additional economy, these Stalkers going in for a bit of a punch and having to blink back. If Scarlett can secure this additional economy, she'll be in a good position just because there's more resources left to mine on her half of the map. Because this top left base is free, because this gold base is still available, and Crank, he's only going to have one base of mining very soon, and that's going to be this gold base. So Scarlett may have traded cost effectively enough with this doom and gloom composition that Freddy Krueger doesn't like. And that could be enough. These Swarm Hosts have been so cost-effective, trying to pull some of them back. So I don't think Scarlett realizes there's no Observer there, but not going to bring... I'd like to see him just abduct. Yeah, just abduct these in, Scarlett. Great play here. Some of them will try to blink away, but even more abducts. It's always funny when the abduct is for a short range. It looks like the Stalker's just jumping up and backwards, like I'm watching some sort of Nickelodeon flick or something. We do have the Observer spotting. He knows about this hatchery. The problem is, what can Crank do about it? Well, he's going to send some Zealots over, but the Vipers are here, of course, can pull off. Hopefully, Scarlett won't feed off of this hatchery too much. The Hydras are coming up here to help defend against this, picking off these Spine Crawlers, and you know, that static defense isn't quite as good later this game goes on, but Scarlett doesn't actually know about this gold base, and this is probably the worst possible situation to be in, because Crank is going to finally be able to max out one final time Mass Void Rays. Am I watching a mono battle? I didn't realize that. I didn't realize Day 9 put a price on Scarlett's head with this army composition, but Scarlett needs to spend. She needs to do something now. She's just going to GG, realizing there are too many Void Rays to deal with. Crank, with that mass Void Ray switch, is able to take another win.